It was 1933 in the treasured historical city of Annapolis, Maryland, nestled deep in the heart of the Chesapeake Bay, when an African-American entrepreneur changed the course of education and opportunity for young black teenagers in Anne Arundel County. In a city navigating the policies of racial segregation in the 30s, the African-American population of Annapolis and the county surrounding it was experiencing the benefits of the gift of this educational opportunity. An opportunity that went mostly unrecognized in the city's white community. It's taken 75 years for the entire Annapolis community to realize and honor the magnificent obsession of a man whose vision was paralleled only by his drive and commitment to the future of the children of his community. His name was Wiley H. Bates.
We're standing here at the intersection of South Street and Cathedral Street, and this section where I'm standing right here on the corner was once the home of Wiley H. Bates. He moved into this home, he married Maggie King, and 9 years later she passed away and he married her younger sister. And right across the street, if you look across to the courthouse, that was the location of Mr. Bates' store.
In the 1920s, when African Americans had literally no opportunities, Wiley Bates started out selling oysters and wood on the city dock. He saved his money and carved a path to success for himself. He worked his way up to becoming one of the most influential entrepreneurs in the city's history.
93 West Washington Street is actually the first home that Wiley H. Bates ever purchased. Mr. Bates managed to acquire and sell over 80 pieces of real estate in the city of Annapolis.
He was born into slavery. He was born with nothing. And then he came back to this area with his mother, and without any formal education, really taught himself and made himself. He believed very much in formal education and really caused that to happen.
At a time when many African Americans in the country had no place to get an education, Bates and his friends supported the Stanton School, K through 12, in one small building. But it quickly outgrew itself, leaving many of these kids no place to go to school.
Wiley Bates and a group of other men got together and they wanted to build or have a high school built, but they didn't have the property. This is when this property right here on Smithfield Street became available.
Annapolis High School, the all-white school, is looking for a place to build a new school, and they both wind up on the same place.
At that time, the way we colored people could get schools was the board would tell you if you wanted a school that you would have to provide the site.
Wiley Bates, by not having any real children of his own, he came and said, well, I'll put up $500 to buy the property.
Fast cash. $500, I give you $500 down.
The owners of this property said, well, we have $500 down payment. We're sure they'll come up with the rest. And they did come up with the rest of it. The Wiley H. Bates High School was built by bricks and by colored men who came here from Hampton. In 1935, Wiley Bates passed away. But he did see a dream come true. And that was to lay the groundwork for people like myself and many of my schoolmates, that we would have a school to call our own.
Getting ready for school in the morning for Bates High School, there was a song that come on every morning while I was getting ready. And the song was, oh, what a beautiful morning, oh, what a beautiful day. I have a wonderful feeling everything's going my way.
The quality and the caliber of our faculty and the administrators, the camaraderie. It was an extension of family. It was a safe haven.
You could not be a part of it and not contribute to it and glean from it, because there was an atmosphere of learning.
Bates High School prepared many boy and girl to go out into the world and to become somebody and to make a place for ourselves.
It really was the glory days.
We had a lot of social activities. We had a lot of academic challenges.
If you were interested in sports, you had the option of playing football, baseball, basketball, running track.
Any kind of trade you wanted to learn, it was all there. Auto mechanics, carpentry, brick masonry, cosmetology, cooking.
If you had your sights set on college, there were all types of clubs, future teachers, future nurses.
Once you graduated, you had it. You know, the teachers just put all their hat into you so that you could be a good product.
We dressed up to come to school. And many of our parents, they did the sacrifice for us. They bought us white shirts and ties and suits and nice looking shoes.
Transportation was a problem.
Families came together, put kids in cars, station wagons, trucks to get them here.
It was sort of like a separate but equal, and we had ours and they had theirs.
We knew that our books were not new books.
They were new to us.
We knew what the situation was, but we were always lifted above the situation.
We were taught in our school we had to be better than our adversaries. If you wanted to get a job, you had to be better than he was because he was going to get the job.
I had the opportunity to lead. I had mentors from 9 to 3 o'clock. Every class there were teachers who were interested in me.
Ms. Marshall and Mrs. Tate, who was very firm in education, because in her class you could hear a mouse run across the floor because she heard everything. She didn't miss a trick.
Ms. Marshall walked around with a chair leg and would hit you with it. She'd stop at my grandmother's house and tell my grandmother what went on in school today.
She didn't miss a thing.
It was called Scared Straight back then. And from that day to this, I'm still scared straight.
If the walls in this school could talk, they would tell many a story.
There were those of Anne Arundel County, our counterparts, who did not want desegregation to take place. We have to make that very clear. And it took from 1954 until 1966 to achieve full desegregation.
You know, back there, it was so much segregation hatred.
Some of our teachers began to prepare us for the fact that one day the schools would be integrated.
I didn't know what it all meant, but after many years it became crystal clear as to what it was.
Oh my gosh, we were so upset when they closed Bates down.
An empty spot in my heart. You know, there was no more Bates.
The Board of Education came through while my father and many other people were on summer vacation, and they just put everything in a truck and hauled it off to the dump.
I'm telling you, I was just filled up with tears all day. I tell you, when something like that happened, it just takes everything out of you.
The last class was in '66. The building lay dormant for a while. The pigeons were the only ones that were enjoying the facility.
The roof leaked, the floor was warped.
There was no electricity. The walls were weeping with dampness.
Homeless people living inside, graffiti.
It had become like a dumping ground for surplus furniture and garbage.
So bleak, so tattered, so boarded up. If you drove down Smithfield Street, you want to look the other way.
It was sad. It was very sad.
A first attempt was made by some community leaders and advocates to save the building, but after intense deliberations, it was shot down by the city council.
And it said to us, what you had is not important to us. It may have been important to you, but it's not important to us or this community.
I just wonder why they didn't have the feelings enough to realize that school meant so much to us.
We went down City Hall so many times protesting, trying to get it open, and we went through so many people.
Developers wanted it. That was people's concern. There were proposals to bring in the bulldozers, and they were going to put up townhouses and condominiums.
If you were a businessman looking at this building and the property, you'd say, this building isn't worth salvaging. You got to tear it down and start from scratch. The building was a symbol of their community, and to tear it down would be downright sinful.
The Bates renovation story.
Several volunteers pressed on to save the crumbling building. Dr. Jean Creek, a community leader, battled hard to get the building on the National Register of Historic Places. It took her 8 years, but in the end, she pulled it off.
It was a mixed feeling. The good thing is you couldn't bulldoze it, okay, so it's just going to fall out on its own.
To further complicate matters, it was a county building on city land, bogged down with state bond issues, stalled in a bureaucratic quagmire.
There was no single thought as to exactly what should be done with the building.
We needed to make sure that all the players were at the table as we proceeded with the project.
Desperate for resolve, the county put together an advisory council of community leaders. The African American voice was that of George Phelps, the first volunteer leader of this committee. Bates alum Judge S.M. Riggs was appointed chairman.
He was very good for the project. He worked with 2 or 3 of the executives, and he had the right judicial temperament.
So that gave us the ability to proceed with our plan. The problem, of course, was we had no plan.
And when politicians see unrest, they don't put money in.
Some of the early discussions were carried out at a very high decibel. And I think that was as much a feature of the age as it was a feature of those who were carrying on the discussions.
It takes time. The fact that there were different points of view meant that people cared, and that was good.
But their end goal was to preserve a legacy. That was something that they all had in common, and the judge crafted a document.
Its purpose became clear to all. It would be renovated for 5 important uses: affordable housing for seniors and a senior activity center, a memorial place for the Wiley H. Bates legacy to live on, space for a community center, and county ball fields.
He handed everyone an ink pen and said, "I need everyone to sign." And I knew some of them held their nose and signed, but he got them to sign.
Consensus makes for the greatest glory.
Arundel Community Development Services, ACDS, was awarded the contract to oversee the revitalization of Bates.
I feel very, very blessed that I had the opportunity of this type in my career. It was not only complicated and you needed to learn a lot as you put the whole thing together, but I got to connect to some really, really wonderful people.
When they came in, they showed us what we can do.
We realized that it would take a lot of money, and that's when things slowed down a lot. It's like, well, who's going to pay for all of this?
It was nice to have fish fries and car washes, but you got to fry a lot of fish to get $1 million.
It involved the help of numerous agencies, and it could have gone down to failure at almost any point.
Now that they decided on the renovation of Bates, they had to figure out how to stop its further ruination. In a breakthrough decision, County Executive John Gary committed $1 million a year for 3 years, and the state matched it. Bates High School was about to turn into a construction site.
And I'm here today to present a check of $447,000 to Anne Arundel County to vacate campus.
Once we stabilized the building and began to deal with the removal of the lead paint and the asbestos, people that were skeptical began to believe.
The classrooms were gutted, all gutted. When I asked the people to do with the old bricks, they told me to throw them away. I said, what? I looked on both sides of the hallway. Gotta find a brick, gotta find a brick. And I looked in this gutted room. I said, what is that over in that corner? Do you know? A brick. I have it. Oh my gosh, Bates High School. I have a part of Bates High School right here.
There was still one bit of confusion. No one knew what to do with the community space.
The Boys and Girls Club came in to talk to us. It was just a light bulb went off and I said, oh, if I got an idea for you.
If you guys can raise $3 million, there's an opportunity for you to establish a club at the Heritage Park. $4.8 million later, we raised the money.
All the entities were to become owners of their own space. What was complicated was that the owners had to qualify for and find their own funding.
We ended up with 12 different sources of financing: federal, state, private, foundations, fundraising, everything in the world.
It's an administrative nightmare, but it's working.
And it was the first time we used a lot of those financing, so we learned as we along the way.
They all found little pots of money somewhere to help make the project grow.
Why it was such a wonderful project was all the different pieces. One day you were preparing an RFP to hire an architectural firm. Another time you were doing an RFP to hire a housing developer. The next day you were working with the community to make design plans for the courtyard. Or you were learning about the history of the man and the history of the building so that you could capture that essence within the whole redevelopment of the project.
It was us working with the community, the people that went to school here. It was that was a very important element in the design, and really hearing from them and feeling that emotion from them, and they'll take that emotion and those feelings and to recreate what they had. Michael did a great job. He actually found the original drawings from the archives of the state. What the goal was to try and bring it back to what it was originally.
From the overarching windows to old brick now refreshed, the glory days are here again. From the terrazzo floors to the familiar halls, 60% of the seniors living here used to attend Bates High School. Annapolis seniors come from all around town to participate in activities. And the Boys and Girls Club is a place where youth is inspired, just as Wiley Bates had planned. The Wiley H. Bates Heritage Park is a setting where old and young share their lives.
I am a foster grandparent, and I just love it. My class was the first class to graduate from Bates in 1933.
I graduated from this school in 1960. I want these kids to go to college because I didn't go to college. For one thing, I like the energy that they had. They had so much energy they can give over to me. I know what kind of dance this is.
A building that was once used to educate us and tell us about the possibilities out there, it would now be used to serve the larger community.
This truly was a grassroots community effort in which everybody did something and got it done.
Well, we do have dreams in this county, and fortunately we have many dreamers.
This is a day of coming back home. This is a day of celebrating memories of the past and looking forward to a glorious future.
For a quarter of a century, you, the Bates community, have struggled to preserve the building and keep the deep family spirit of the Bates heritage.
That morning through that entire night was just so wonderful. To see faces of my school teachers who taught me, to see them here with the pride on their face. Black students and white students would hold hands and come together to appreciate what we for years have appreciated.
As I look out among you and at this building, there's only one way to describe it. It's awesome.
Agenda. And because of the very dedicated staff, those wonderful teachers.
Do you have any Bates graduates in this house? Do you have any faculty and staff in this house? Welcome back home.
That school produced this warm, wonderful, loving community. And you really felt it on grand opening day.
A $27 million complex that we, the community, have a key to. It's a beautiful feeling.
If there are any other homecoming queens, would you please work their way up on the stage?
Something had come back to life. For me, I lived my dream.
Our community was rejuvenated, and we were back as somebody.
We saved a building that's always going to be there and always going to be able to tell this story, you know, that needs to be told.
There is a school that we love so well.
It's Bates, dear Bates.
One that whose name all our hearts still thrill.
It's Bates, dear Bates.
Oh, glorify thy praise we sing.
And to thy shrine all our laurels bring.
Sing of thee, oh yes, sing of thee.
Our time with you we never shall rue, so our thoughts turn fondly to thee.